Sorry for the slight delay. Good evening and welcome to the May 9th the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission meeting. This is a regular meeting. A notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy to the Montclair Times, the Star Ledger, and the Herald News. We are being broadcast live on Channel 34, Montclair TV, and remotely streamed on the YouTube channel. So, would you please do the honors of the...
Kathleen Bennett.
Present.
Michael Graham.
Here.
John Reimnitz.
Here.
Stephen Rooney.
Here.
Gerald Sweeney. Nicholas Giuliano.
Here.
Stephen Smolin.
Here.
Okay, that's...
And Janine Bauer, our attorney.
Janine Bauer, I've marked her as excused.
Okay. Moving forward, we have the minutes of April 25th, 2024. So there was some confusion with this because when I printed them out, I didn't, the equal pages didn't print out. And then the sentence numbers didn't print out. So I have a number of corrections. But before I start, let's ask if anyone else has any amendments or changes to the minutes of April 25th, 2024.
Sorry, there was some confusion. I actually saw a copy without the second page, and now I'm seeing a copy with.
Yeah. It's the same issue.
Okay.
I think what was sent to us was that.
Was this correct?
Right,
Yeah.
but this has the, oh, you haven't, I don't know what happened.
And now I have the, yeah.
Right, okay.
I have an extra copy. Would you like?
No, I printed out some. Does anyone else need a copy of the minutes?
I'm missing one with the second page.
Yes, I think,
If you have more than one copy?
so it must have been your printer. It wasn't, if everybody,
The packets were sent out by our secretary.
right, oh, okay. So the first, I may as well start on the first page where it says approval of minutes. Under January 18th, 2024 minutes, it has John Reimnitz and then has an X and recused for 8. What does that mean?
So he recused himself for 8 Hillside Avenue. Like he didn't vote for that section of the minutes.
So I think you need to write that because
Okay.
I don't know what.
It's in this copy, which, yeah, I didn't see on my.
Oh,
copy.
okay. It wasn't in the copy I printed out.
Okay.
But it is in his copy.
It's in this copy, yeah.
Okay. So moving along, page 2, under Woodman Field update, the second sentence, again, I don't have the numbers. The architect is Starrett and Van Vleck in 1921. On page 3, under referral from the planning board, Bellevue Avenue, Bellevue Theater, the second sentence should read, the applicant proposed to install new storefronts for the retail space on the east facade facing the Upper Montclair Plaza.
Sorry, which paragraph is this?
The first paragraph, under new business.
Yes.
Right, and then the second sentence, please strike, it was built in 1921, and it has a Tudor revival style to it. It should be, it was built in 1921 in the Tudor revival style. So just strike, it has a Tudor revival style to it. And then there should be a comma between brick and stucco in that same paragraph. The second paragraph under A1, the third sentence, confirm that the globe lights were made of metal and glass, period. Strike and describe the front enclosure as a solid metal gate. The last paragraph, Mr. Smolin began by summarizing his report. Oh, the second sentence. He emphasized the historical significance of the Tudor-style facade on the north end of the property. And then continuing in that, particularly the storefronts, strike highlighting clarity on the mural and adjustments in the arrangement. And then page 4, the last sentence on the first paragraph, they commented that this was, I would say, an improvement and give the following recommendation. So strike tremendous. On the bullet points, the second one, maximize glass in the storefront, strike even with varying spaces between pilasters. So it should just read maximize what?
I think it should say, fill the space between the pilasters with storefront and glass.
Okay, great. Do you have that?
Fill the space.
So maximize the glass in the storefronts by filling,
The space between the pilasters completely. They had,
right,
yeah.
they had sections.
these other-
Okay. The third bullet point, strike, optimize the pilasters, ensuring they are enlarged specifically. Just strike all that. Just say optimize the brick pilasters, plural, on the east side by stripping them to explore the surface. And then under Church Street, the third sentence says the building was constructed in 1970 and as a center entry. So strike that sentence because it was designed in 1930 in an Art Deco style. That's the same sentence as a commercial building. And then on the next full paragraph, Mr. Gurich addressed the replacement of the existing storefront. The proposed changes target the storefronts corresponding to number 22 and number 24. I think just check that if that's correct, on the north exterior elevation. And then further down in the paragraph, a portion of the, if you would insert marble bulkhead sill. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth sentence. Just insert marble in front of bulkhead. And then going down another 4 sentences. Additionally, a new accessible barrier-free entrance with a black aluminum glass door will be provided, along with covering, strike clouding over and put covering the existing marble bulkhead. And then keep the next sentence. And then, I don't know what this means. The area of the exterior pavers transitioning to the interior will match the floor of the main entrance? Does anyone,
Which one, where are you?
36, page 4.
Area of exterior pavers transitioning to the interior. Last floor of the entrance. That makes no sense to me.
all right, strike that sentence. All right, and then the next sentence, it should be, Mr. Gurich provided 2 main drawings depicting construction details, product specifications, existing photos of the facade, and renderings of the new front system. So strike historic. And that's all I have.
I have something on the same page, line 18 and 19, about the bulkhead, the bottom of the storefronts of the Bellevue Theater
Oh.
building.
Right.
I'm confused. Is that going to be all metal, or was there glass at the bottom of the bulkhead?
I think they
I thought it was the way I remember it was glass.
glass, yeah.
So construct the bulkhead at the bottom using the same material.
Makes no
Right.
sense. The whole storefront is that material. Unless I'm missing, were they proposing panels in the bottom?
I think they start out with glass, and then we talked about the safety issues of that such a narrow, and then we talked a little bit about whether it should be
Metal.
metal as
Okay,
opposed.
Okay, then that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember that.
What I can do, Farwa, is I can send these to you in the Word, okay? All right. We have no resolutions. Committee reports. Minor applications. We met today for application 2024-10, Rumble. Jim, I guess. 536 Bloomfield Avenue was approved with conditions. And then 2024-11 Quahu House at 493 Bloomfield was approved with conditions. Design Review Committee met on Tuesday at 20 Church Street. John Reimnitz and myself and the applicant from 20 Church Street met to discuss the changes to the facade, and we'll talk about that later because they're here tonight. Nominations Committee, we're still waiting for the CLG grant. You haven't heard from them. No, I spoke to the state SHPO office yesterday, and they said it'll take probably another week. They'll send out the letters. So I couldn't get any more information, and that is to continue our research of the Upper Montclair Commuter District, the second part of it. Oh, education and outreach. We're doing a Researching Your Home workshop next week, Wednesday, May 15th, and Saturday, May 19th. This is a collaboration with the Montclair Public Library and the Montclair History Center. It's from 10 to 12, and are there any, I know Steve,
I usually go.
Would you like to go now?
Sure.
Can you go on, what day is better for you?
Probably the 19th,
The 19th, okay, then I won't go. I'll go on the
15th.
15th. Okay, so Steve is going to go on the 19th, and I'll go on Wednesday, the 15th. And again, they're sold out. And thank you all for registering for the annual conference. I think it's close by, so I think it'll be good. The Preservation Awards, we're moving to September this year. Since we've only had 2 weeks since our last meeting, it really wasn't time, even though this is Preservation Month. Happy Preservation Month, everybody. There wasn't time to really spend on getting all the, bits and pieces together for it. So our September meeting, as I said, is September 19th, and I think we have a couple of really good, solid award, solid nominations. So thank you, Farwa, for putting the front and center on the website. That was great. Yeah, that was really good. So, moving forward, we go to public comment. Anybody want to come up and address? Okay, we'll close the public comment part. Old business. I don't think we have any old business. Well, this is what I'm confused
On
about.
this agenda, it's old business.
Oh, okay, I have a different agenda, too. Okay. All right, so we do have old business. We have application 2024-05, 20 Church Street, Diesel and Duke, storefront alterations and signage. So would you please come forward? And I think what we have to do is, we don't have our counsel here, but I believe last 2 weeks ago, we approved the signage and the awnings. Right, that's what I meant. And the
signage as well, we approved.
Yes, so in effect, the application was bifurcated. So what I thought was that would be a separate resolution from but maybe not. I guess we can't do that. So this will all be together in one resolution.
But it wouldn't affect the approval that we were.
No.
Okay.
No, we're not going to take them away, if that's what you're worried about. No. But I think that that needs to be noted in terms of, because this application, and I believe the correct word is adjourned? It was adjourned what's the correct word from last week? From last meeting?
The signage and the awning resolution?
No, the signing and the awning were approved.
Were approved, right.
And then the
Oh, it was tabled.
alteration.
Continued,
Tabled.
thank you, Steve. Carried.
So I think then we might have to look again at this, because somehow, I think in here it says it was adjourned. I had a question. Okay, That's just another, that's not for you guys.
Yeah.
So, having said, we had a design review committee meeting on-site to discuss what you heard from us and from our consultant 2 weeks ago. And I had a totally different drawing, and I think all of us did. So now you have a new drawing, a new.
So it's the door that was it was the incorrect file, so the door now is correct. We made a mistake on the file.
Okay.
So the door was centered, because that was not correct. I sent the wrong file, so that's my fault. And then I knew, by the time you guys got in, there was only a day in between, so I had sent it. So it was a bit my fault.
Okay.
On that. So this is just, the system is the new system that you guys had, but it's the door position.
Okay, so before we start, I think you were sworn in last week, 2 weeks ago, so they don't need to be sworn in again, right?
I actually don't know. Do we want to do it just to be safe?
Okay, so raise your hand and just,
Whatever
do
you
you
guys
swear
want,
to,
Swear or
tell the
affirm?
truth? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Yes.
And could you identify yourselves and your relationship to the project?
David, David Guzmano, owner.
And Zachary Giddich, architect.
Okay, great. So, having said that, we have the new plan up, and we've been looking, now we're able to see it. So,
I have a question. Will this be marked as exhibit?
oh, that was another point. It has to
I
be
will
another
mark it.
exhibit, what? Exhibit 5 or something?
A3.
3?
Last time they submitted photographs and you submitted photographs, so there were 2 exhibits, so
Right.
this would be A3.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so this is Exhibit A3. So, just some background, when we came, well, why don't you tell us what you're proposing to change based on the comments you heard last week, the comments from our consultant,
Okay,
and
yes.
also,
So
When
that
we
was
came.
the one point was that you guys had a meeting at the site to take a look in person at the existing storefront and the conditions that were there. I wasn't able to attend that meeting, so I can't really go over I've heard it through David, the sort of the specifics about what you guys discuss. From those discussions and through some consideration, we took a look at a different cronier system that brought the glass a little bit more forward to the storefront to replicate what's there. We're still looking to replace the existing storefront that's on the side opposite of the entrance over here. The west side. And the area where the entrance is, we're looking to keep the door in its current location, but we still want the door to swing out instead of swinging in. And we're looking to, I think we're still looking to replace some elements of
Yeah.
that too,
So we wanna-
with the similar cronier storefront that we're showing. Basically, that storefront, which is shown in the details that you have on your sheet here, this is a little out of focus, but the glass is forward. The last system that we had, the glass was in the middle, so you were seeing heavier shadow lines, and you were seeing more of the framing system itself. This one, the glass is brought forward, similar to what is the existing condition of the glass in the aluminum storefront that's there right now, and is seen on the building's facade. Those are some of the biggest changes that happened.
and what is your proposal now for the bulkhead, the marble?
What we discussed on site, when we said that if you guys were like, would you be able to mimic what that other storefront had when we had that conversation? So we're proposing that we skim coat it, and then have it mimic, what was at that other storefront that we went over on site.
Okay. So I think then there was the framing system, the placement of the door, and the bulkhead were the 3 main
And we
things.
also made this door recessed as opposed to before it was flush.
Yes, so it's pushed in a little bit as well. This was something that we discussed openly on our last hearing together. the 8 inches rather than being flush. So it's being recessed back.
So the door will not be as recessed. You're bringing the door forward.
We're still bringing the door forward. Currently, it's, off the top of my head, I think it's 30 inches recessed into the storefront opening. And what we're proposing to do is have that at 8 inches recessed rather than 30. So still bringing it forward, and we're still looking to meet the ADA requirements for an accessible entrance. And we're still looking to meet we're trying to improve the storefront glass being insulated and thermally broken. So we're still looking for that energy efficiency in our storefront.
So last time we talked about the ADA requirements would not apply to this door because it is a historic building, and that there are other potential solutions for the heating issue. And we did discuss that the door itself is really one of the irreplaceable elements of this site, of this particular site. So I'm wondering why we couldn't replace the framing and skim coat the marble and leave the door the way it is.
It's a consideration.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's some, we hadn't discussed it, but if it's something that's feasible, if it's the door that's, we would just have to still, like, if we were, I guess, reframing that entrance, we would still, as we kind of discussed, John, making that entrance a touch wider, but the door can just be framed in, but it just has to have that certain clearance on the actual left and right of the door. Because it's right now, it's basically flush with the door. But, I mean, putting the door into, I mean, I don't see why that would be an issue.
you mean reusing the existing door that's
Correct,
there?
yeah, reusing.
So keeping the door that's there is something that's acceptable.
Yeah, if that's kind of a focal
Yeah.
point on things, then it's always a solution to figure something like that out.
So, so what you're saying is does this rendering show the existing door?
So the existing door is there. It's overlaid as being dashed, so you can see what it looks like compared to the new door that we were proposing.
Okay.
So essentially, we would be keeping that, that shaped door, the existing shaped door, reusing the existing door, still wanting to bring it forward so that we can achieve the letter of the code of the ANSI A117 accessible entrance for a door that swings open.
But
So it
that,
swings in? Swings,
We're looking to have the door
swing out or
swing out in the path of egress. John, there's an extra one of these
Yeah, I
right
was just
here.
looking to see if that matched what I had.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Yeah.
A quick side note on the glass, as you guys saw when you kind of came out, I mean, glass is broken, right? So glass is going to be replaced regardless because it's broken. And, you know, it's not, so if we're going to replace one pane, if we could replace all of them, I think that would be pretty efficient for us. I don't see why that would be something like, if I can only replace one and not the other, I don't know if glass has a, like, significance to you guys or not in terms of just the appearance of glass.
So you're saying to replace the entire glass?
Yeah, the glass
Yeah,
has to, yeah,
right.
of course, the glass has to be, you know, it's broken, so if I'm gonna replace one, if the left side, I might as well replace the right side, because it's broken in multiple areas throughout the left and right side of the facade. So,
So then the question is, so we talked about the door, the glass, are you going to, with the new storefront system, the new storefront system, I thought you were proposing to replace all of the glass.
correct, yes. I just wanted to make sure that was
but matching the framing, right?
the same, the same exact dimensions of what the current frames are, yes.
Right.
But we're using insulated glass, not single pane, non-tempered glass.
I just wanted to get the parameters of what we
Yeah,
were
yeah.
discussing before we open it up for
Sure.
questions,
Yeah.
and our consultant then would speak.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
no, that's excellent, yeah.
Okay, and I didn't give any historic context because we did that last time, so.
Yeah.
But this is, again, it's a contributing building in the historic district, so, and you guys know that it has a facade that really contributes to that Art Deco vibe that is on Church Street. So I think that needs to be discussed and considered. So those, I think, are the three things that we discussed on site and what we're discussing tonight. Is there anything else, or the door, the framing, the bulkhead? And I'm saying
Just
that.
the door, the framing, and the bulkhead.
Yeah, and the glass would be part of the framing. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we'll open up for questions from the commissioners. Who would like to go first?
I'm having trouble reading the elevation drawing. Because I see the, and it's because you've laid the demolition and the plan on top of each other.
Yeah,
So
they're
it's-
simultaneously laid over top of each other.
Yeah, so,
So you can see the relationship between the two, and I guess one of the considerations that we're trying to give is that the existing door and its original shape is something that we're willing to keep and work with. We're still trying to replace the existing metal framing of the storefront.
I got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But can I just show you this a little?
Sure, yeah, it'll
I
come
think the only way to describe this
Sure.
is to just point this
Yeah,
out
that's
to you.
Farwa, do we have the handheld mic so that they can speak while they're up there?
So John is referring to the left and the right of the door, and there's a line that shows the thickness of a new opening that would be what we would have needed in order to get a new door in. And what we're conceding to is the dimensions of the existing entrance and the existing door carrying through. So instead of the solid line, it would be more of the dashed line that would carry through.
Okay.
Does that help you?
No.
Oh, okay. Trying my best.
I guess you're trying to show two things at once, is that right? The new door, a new door, or reusing the existing door.
Yes.
I guess what, I like the, okay, we're doing questions now, is that it? Okay. The other thing that you're showing here is,
What did you resolve?
that's just a question, there's no resolution in there yet. I will have a comment eventually, so. The other thing is new skim-coated, painted bulkhead to cover existing damaged marble. What do you think you're doing there? You think you're doing wire mesh and skim coating right on top of the marble?
So there's different methods of application in order to make this happen. One of them could be a cement board, and then we apply that and then skim coat that and paint it black to resemble what is existing on the on the neighbor storefront, which I think was what was in reference, but I wasn't there during that meeting. I think the overall goal, no matter if we're just talking about aesthetics, is to achieve what was used as the reference for that
Right,
marble. So it's hard to tell exactly what they did, but that's our intention.
Okay, got it. On your plan drawing, you show the recess at 6 inches. And you've said 8 inches.
Apologize.
Is it 8 inches or 6 inches?
We can do up to 8 inches will still be
Okay.
allowed per code,
Okay.
so,
I didn't know that, by the way. That's very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. 8 inches. Okay, those were my questions.
And what is it currently?
30.
Oh, so it's, but I thought I just asked you if you were going to keep the same distance as what's there now. If it's now, if it's now.
Previously, they came back with the door flush.
Right.
Now they're proposing to pull it back 8 inches, but not all the way
Oh,
back to
but I
where.
thought I just asked you that, and you said it was going to be in the same location as the door is now.
So when I was saying it was the same location, on our original application,
I think
we had
we
it
meant left or right.
We had it
Front,
moved
back.
laterally to the right a little bit further, if you're looking at the plan. So
Oh, I
when we
see.
say the same location, the entrance door is going to be in the same location. It's just pulled forward in terms of where it's located. It's in the same location where it's located laterally, left to right, but dimensionally it's pulled forward.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where I was talking about the 8 inches, 6 inch to 8 inch offset.
Okay, thank you.
We did discuss last time potentially moving it, making sure that it wasn't flush and keeping that recess at least 8 inches. But then we also discussed that ADA, when dealing with historic buildings, right, does not require that you make a change that would essentially damage the building so that you couldn't put it back the way it was, or that you're not put another way, you're not required to comply with that 8-inch depth. You could keep the 30 and still be in compliance with ADA code.
I don't believe that to be true. You guys have told that to me, but the barrier-free, the federal ANSI 8117 code is pretty literal about what it wants to happen. There may be some exceptions to it for some existing conditions or
Well, we
of a
read it
building.
into the record last time, right? The
but
code
what-
section with respect to historic sites.
That was, I mean, you guys were also talking about training employees to open a door for somebody, which is,
No, there were just options about not, so that's another question then. Why is it necessary from a business perspective to remove that 22 inches?
yeah, for me, in terms of business, is not my.
No, I'm
my
sorry, I'm
answer.
asking the owner.
We're-
Why
I'm
is
just
it,
trying
is
to
it, is it
create
necessary, why is it necessary to remove the 22 inches from the recess?
It was per code, correct?
No, assuming that we're correct as
Okay.
commissioners, that you're not required to remove that 22 inches, and you'll still be considered in compliance with the ADA. What is the business necessity for
So
that
our,
change?
our original goal was to go flush, and the recess is just to kind of come to a common ground in between.
And
No,
the-
I
and the-
understand that, but
the-
I'm
the
talking about
reason
from a
why
business
we're-
operations standpoint.
the
So
reason why
again,
we're-
we're trying to balance out the business interests with the historic interests. So I'm wondering if you need that space within the business. Is there a specific reason? There have been applications that have come to us.
I see what you're saying.
And they need
Does-
an oven
does-
in a
does that
certain
make a
spot, or
difference
they
on the
need.
internal side of it,
Correct,
for
your
seating or
operation.
something like
Correct.
this? No.
Okay.
But can I just respond to you a little bit?
Sure.
The whole thing about leaving it in terms of accessibility is leaving the facade
Yeah.
as is. As soon as you start rebuilding this, you're going to have to rebuild it to code. Okay, so keep that in
Okay.
mind. It's,
So if we permit them to do the reframing, then they have to rebuild it to code?
if they're reframing that and reframing around the door, yeah, sure.
So they can't keep some elements. If they start changing an element, they have to change all of the elements to be ADA compliant?
They're changing everything except they're reusing the door.
But they're keeping the same, right? They're keeping the same footprint, right?
I
So I'm
think-
just wondering
I-
if that would necessitate ADA
Have you guys
compliance.
reviewed the rehab subcode as well to check against ANSI?
I have, but there's still a certain level of discrimination that you're giving towards people with disabilities and having to have special circumstances for them to enter a business that's different from anybody else who didn't have those disabilities. So now you're asking someone who is disabled to have to push a button, have someone to come and open a door in order to let them in, which is a certain level of discrimination towards that person. So we're trying to relieve that issue by following what is per the code in the ANSI 117.
Oh, understood, and I
Yeah.
respect that. And obviously, we want things to be as accessible as possible.
So do
But
we.
again, we are talking about, a building that's been around for 100 years.
True.
And you're talking about elements that are defining features. And these are things that, again, talked about it last time, need to be balanced, and that's what we're trying to figure out here. And I guess my number one concern is, what does that code actually say? What does the ADA code require? If you are required to do it once you touch the glass, all right, that's one conversation. If you're not, that's another. So I think we need clarification on that point.
I think regardless, we're still proposing what we're proposing. Just to kind of keep this conversation productive, if there's a situation where the entrance side of it, which you guys were on site, so the left side, the entrance side is original. The right side is not. It's aluminum with wood behind it. It's not historic. Or I don't want to say it's not historic, sorry. But that's been replaced. That's not like the original materials on the left side. You could see the right side was in much worse condition than the left side when you guys came out. It's just screwed into wood that's deteriorating on the inside. You guys saw the inside of it. It's not like I'm fabricating this to say like, hey guys, it's,
No, we don't think that.
Yeah, no, I'm not, I'm just, so is there a situation where, okay, if the left side is something that you definitely, if we can't figure out an arrangement on that, the right side needs a lot of work, regardless. I would like to do everything, but the right side is not, it's just aluminum with wood behind it. It's not steel or, it's not, it just has screws in it with wood that's deteriorating behind it. So I would say that's.
So it's not the original fabric to the historical
I don't
fabric
believe
to
so,
the
no.
facade?
It's a completely different facade than what's on the left side, or a material, I don't want to say facade.
Would you guys agree with that?
So if there's
Can
a
we just do
situation where I
questions
can.
now?
Yeah, we can't.
We'll come back and do commentary.
Oh,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
That's okay.
We'll absolutely get to that. I don't want to bias anybody
I'm
yet.
just kind of floating things out there that
Yeah.
regardless, okay, we're gonna come to whatever we come to on the entrance side, but I really, on the right side, it's in terrible condition. It's not
All right, so
of
let's
historic
have
value in
more-
my,
Let's do questions then. John, any more
I'm done
questions?
with questions.
Steve? Nick?
At this point, my only question would be, is there any other kind of storefront system that you've looked at that has smaller profiles width-wise, not just
After-
position of the glass?
Yeah, there was after speaking with John on site, there was two companies, one of which he pointed us to, which we had already been using, or sourced a different model previously. Another company, but we felt like Conair just had better quality product than the other company, that it was just a little bit of a cheaper option. I wanted to go with a nicer option. So this seemed like, from what I spoke with Conair directly after John and I kind of exchanged a few emails, spoke with their architectural, their director of architecture, sent him all the photos, and he was like, this is what I feel would be the best system for you guys.
Yeah.
For what.
I'm just wondering if there's a
Yeah.
middle ground between fully replicating what's there, which I know could
Yeah.
be cost
I mean,
prohibitive.
on the right
and doing a
side-
Conair 4-inch system.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean the depth of it, because it's 2-inch profile from what is.
The front
seen.
profiles too.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
I guess the biggest change that I already sort of mentioned that, is that we're bringing the glass to its sort of,
To
it's
keep those sight
replicate
lines
its
a lot
original
thinner.
Yeah.
location up front, and still being able to achieve that.
Yeah, I think bringing the glass forward will help. I'm also
Yeah.
just wondering on the frame depth, because once you
Yeah.
start looking at it,
Yeah.
in perspective, you're going to get the 2 plus the 4, and it just starts to look
Yeah.
very chunky compared to what's there now. Even if we couldn't replicate the profile perfectly, if we could replicate the scale of it,
Correct.
might be a good middle ground. So I was just curious if you looked at some
So
alternate
my
companies.
so following up on Nick's question is that the different systems that I think you've said you've looked at, is there anything that's more closer to what's on the left side where the door is, the original facade, in terms of width and depth? You threw out a couple of names, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fine.
So there is another option with a custom metal fabricator that I've been speaking with, along with a local glass guy that's right across from Cabney Field on Walnut. And they feel very comfortable about creating the exact same size and thickness of it.
Of glass.
Of the metal framing on the left
Oh,
side. Yeah,
okay.
to basically mimic exactly on the left side from a size profile, even with the little beveled, I don't know if that's the right term or not, but there's like a little bit of I don't know if that's the the old glazing or not, but there may be a little bit of like a bevel that they can recreate as well.
Are you, I'm sorry, are you speaking about the glass or
The metal.
The metal
Yes,
framing?
yeah.
And
I'm not even talking about glass
Okay.
at all.
No, 'cause
This is
you
all.
talked about the storefront, so I know that's.
Yeah.
glass
I'm
framing
just saying, like, when
and
I'm
glass cutter.
I'm talking about the metal that would be
Framing
used.
system.
The framing system. Yes,
Framing
the metal
system.
framing system. Yeah. So it's I wanted to kind of have that option as well, but it's not something that I could have done in this format. It's just it's a custom metal fabricator. So.
What do you mean you couldn't have
What do
done
you
it in
mean?
this?
Like I didn't have the ability to propose that formally to you guys on a plan right now.
It was too quick.
It was too,
Turn-
yeah. So
turnaround.
I'm
Oh,
going with
okay.
this, and then
Okay,
it
okay,
was
got it,
I didn't
got it.
necessarily, but that is kind of I think would be probably a pretty good option if this didn't fit or appease you guys.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No. So, Mr.
Oh, I
Smith-
had one more, Kathleen,
Oh.
just for the stone bulkhead.
I was
Did
gonna
you
make a
guys
comment.
look at, instead of like stucco, and I don't know if there's an application like this that exists, but is there some kind of like clear sealer or something that you can have put over it to smooth out the depressed parts where some of the stone is chipped and smooth over the crack so that you can at least see the green marble and the veining, but if you were to run your hand over it, it's a sealed, smooth surface that could potentially be removed later.
So
I don't think it could be ever, there's epoxy systems that are out there. The problem that I found with it is epoxy when you're using it on the exterior and some applications like this. The UV light will turn them to be yellow and discolor them. We've used them in the past when we are looking to either have an onyx or a marble that needs to be protected because of use and different things like that. But there's no natural light, so that clear coat that's over top of it is going to remain. On an exterior, it's not going to last. And there's no way of removing it without damaging. It's sort of, it gets mechanically fastened through the chemicals and chemically bonded to the stone that it's being applied to.
And the discoloration, I guess, over time would be uniform at the
Yeah.
very least.
Even though that there's not like major sunlight directed on this, over time that's going to sort of deteriorate and not weather well.
Is the stone bulkhead loose, or is it pieces are loose?
I haven't kicked it or anything.
So there's pieces that are loose. There's also been a lot of really shoddy restoration work already tried to be done to it with just concrete that was stuck into it, and someone with some green paint tried to blend it in a little. It's the store right next to us. Theirs is in perfect condition. If it was in great condition, I have no problem. You know what I mean? But it's just that there's like 3 or 4 areas on it where it's either plugged with concrete, something else that was painted and just looks awful. There's like one probably football size damage in it. You guys saw it. We were there.
Yeah.
So
I was just wondering if the panels themselves were
Yeah.
loose, or it was just broken in
I
pieces.
haven't actually tested that.
Have any stone yards or anything, just any reps looked at it and seen if they could just replace it with something close enough in veining and color? Or is it just,
I mean, I haven't went that route, but if that's something that's an option, I could look in, if that's an option maybe you guys were into, it's definitely.
because they'd never be butted up directly, butt jointed to one of the
Yeah.
other ones. There's always going to
Yeah.
be a little bit of separation between them.
Yeah.
It's a green marble's not that uncommon.
No,
Maybe
yeah,
they can
yeah.
find.
I mean, if that's something that, like I said, I'm kind of open. I don't want to I don't want to do that. I just want to cover it, and I'm totally. What's there, I feel like isn't of. I get it that it's historic, but it's. Like I said, if my storefront were the one directly to the left of us, I'd be more than happy to clean it up nice and never think about it again. So it's just kind of like into the whole. If I'm going to do everything, I just want to do everything the right way, and make it actually be aesthetically pleasing and functional, for us at the same time. To respect the historic value, but also make it a little bit functional, without taking it too far.
All right, those are my only 2 questions.
Okay, thank you. So you've received Mr. Smalling's, thank you, updated report, correct? That was dated May 8th? Okay, so again, thanks to all, we're trying to accommodate you and opening, so thank you. I mean, I know it's been it's been a lot of activity at one time. But you presented us with these new drawings, which you haven't seen this either, right? This is tonight.
Yeah,
This one.
yeah, I'm seeing it for the first time.
Right, as we all are. So maybe, do you have questions about what's being presented now as, because your report is based on,
A set of drawings that showed the door being off-center.
Yes.
A couple other little changes.
Yeah.
Yes, so just a couple questions for clarification.
Sure.
Before I get into my report. 451 or 451T for the storefront spec? What's being proposed?
We're looking for the thermally broken ones.
So the T, okay. The glass that would be in that, I presume is going to have a low E coating on it.
So, yeah.
Do you know about what type of reflectivity it's going to have?
Per the manufacturer, I don't know the solar heat gain value to it or not, so I don't know exactly what it is.
Typically, glass with a low E coating and IGU is 25 to 30% reflectivity. Is that fair to assume?
Yeah.
Compared to the existing, that's probably closer to 5%, 4%.
Yeah, it's definitely lower.
Do you have any corner details of what this storefront's going to look like?
In terms of how it attaches to the,
If, which we're going to get to in a second, the whole Conair system was installed here, what would it look like when two pieces of glass, new and new, are coming together?
oh, if, you mean where they butt together in
Yeah,
in
at
terms
a
of the
corner.
mullion coming up and down?
Yeah.
It's per the manufacturer's.
Which is
details.
typically 5 inches or so. It's pretty chunky, right?
I don't believe so, no. No, this system, I think, is keeping everything around 2 inches.
Yeah, I want to say it's about
The typical mullions for sure, but unless you're doing something
You can
different
see
than
it
what
in
I'm,
I mean, our spans are not that far in terms of having the piece of glass be continuous. So if you look at the manufacturer's spec, you can see in section number 5, you can see the same profile is going to be used. Our intention is to have the same profile.
I think
You mean
we're
the
asking
outside
about
corner.
turning the corner.
yeah.
You don't show that detail here.
I don't think we're going to have that detail.
Not at the door?
No,
No, it's not clear to me around the door
So it-
condition what you're doing
In
there.
plan, and I'm looking at one of the two drawings that are numbered number 1, the one that says plan, right next to that 6-inch dimension.
If we were going to replace the door and have this new opening, then yes, we'd have one piece and another piece, and it would be chunkier on the return. That goes back, but there's no glass after that. So there's not going to be a piece of glass in the 8-inch return. So we're not returning it back in.
So you would be dyeing it at a
It's more of like a
typical...
recess, but there's no glass to the left or right as you come in, because we're only recessing the door back 6 or 8 inches.
Okay. What was the attachment system you were proposing for that skim coat on the bulkhead?
That was the only suggestion in my head, is if we would do a cement board covering and then do an application of a skim coat and a black painted stucco or something that would resemble what was down the. I really haven't had time to investigate exactly how the neighboring storefront did it that you guys all saw, but our intention is to mimic what is existing on the building a couple storefronts down.
Potentially a shoddy renovation is what you're looking to mimic?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you investigated whether the existing curb within the storefront shown on like section 6 there can support a new storefront?
Yeah, the curb is going to be perfectly fine to support it.
What type of curb is it?
It's a CMU block or concrete in some parts.
Okay. So, getting to my report from just yesterday,
By
The-
the way, I haven't been able to see this report, so I'm at a little bit of a loss.
oh,
Oh,
do you have a copy of it, Farwa? or- I don't have a hard I don't know if I have a hard copy.
It's right there.
I have it. I don't have it,
We don't have the agenda online here.
Maybe only Janice and Farwa saw it then.
April 25th.
Emails that she sent.
Oh, emails, yeah, okay, it's on this.
I suspected you may not have seen it based upon the epoxy discussion. I don't have a hard copy on me.
well, why don't I give you my copy?
Oh.
And then, which leaves us at a loss, but I think you need to have the conversation.
Yeah.
So the green text is revised since the first review. There's no metal panel being proposed outboard of the sill. It's this cement board idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
those two.
And it doesn't,
It doesn't?
So
no, because it's.
getting into my comments there, as I said last time,
the previous.
less is more here. I've visited this storefront a couple times now, as recently as like an hour ago, and I believe it can and should be preserved. I think once you start tinkering with this thing, the whole thing could just fall apart, and you'll be back telling us that it's gone and we have to do something completely different. I think the notion of taking that door, re-supporting it, doing all this work on top of the existing bulkhead with the storefront is optimistic and not really appropriate, because at the end of the day, just starting at the bottom of the storefront, the kind of threshold issue is that stone significantly deteriorated to warrant replacement? That's the first step with an existing historic material. There may be a panel or two that qualifies significantly deteriorated if there is in fact a football-sized hole, sure, but the appropriate treatment for that is to match the existing in color, appearance, etc. And under comment 2, you'll see, I believe, this is Verde antique marble to domestic marble from, I think, Vermont or New Hampshire. So if replacement is warranted, again, if a significantly deteriorated piece is identified, it would be appropriate to replace it with stone to match, or, very closely match, as opposed to driving impaling nails through it and putting some type of cementitious material that's not reversible, very likely to damage the underlying masonry, somewhat similar to doing like a Garden State brick face job on it. That's not anything in the realm of what's been considered appropriate in historic preservation for a while. Staying with the bulkhead, if you're looking at cracks and chips that are in the order of like the size of a quarter, there's 2-component, so it's UV stable, epoxy that should be used. Bond stone is an example of a proprietary product. It can be tinted. It can even be combined with like dust or aggregate from the marble to really simulate the existing stone, and it'll blend in, and it's warranted, stable, and it's probably going to be stronger than the existing stone at the end of the day. If you go that route, you should test it, around the corner, the bulkhead in an inconspicuous area, but with a dark colored marble like that, pretty unlikely to stain or leach. It's as difficult as like white marble. If you have things approaching the size of like baseball size holes, you'd be looking at like a Dutchman style repair where you would have to actually procure probably just a sample of that Verde antique, and you're actually inserting that within the marble, again using probably that 2-component exterior epoxy to adhere it. I attached an entire section from the Natural Stone Institute's guide on restoration and repair, and it outlines in much greater detail all these steps, and that's kind of an industry standard guidance document for natural stone. We spoke about overcladding the bulkhead. That's comment 3 of mine. Definitely not appropriate. Very likely to introduce moisture issues too in that cavity you're creating. Note number 7 I removed because there was a certificate of appropriateness from last September related to mechanical equipment. And note number 8 deals with the idea of the replacement storefront. I don't believe in any way this Conair 451T system replicates the filigree and the width of the muttons and the mullions that you have in that existing system. Those are probably on the order of inch, maybe inch and a quarter, and we're looking at something that's now typically 2 plus, 4 to 6 inches in depth on the inside for the mullion there, plus the glass now going from 5% to 25% reflectivity. It's going to look completely different. It's really in no way like a faithful reconstruction, and I don't think that's really warranted here because I don't think we've hit that significantly deteriorated threshold. And I think the corner is a major concern. I think it's extremely unlikely that looks anything like what you would have today with that system. And I believe that covers all of my reports. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Just one comment. When I was talking about the epoxy and it turning yellow over time, the specific question was asked to me about a clear coat epoxy to sort of encase what's existing there. I think that's what you asked, clear coat. So I was referring to a clear coat epoxy, not a tinted 2-stage epoxy.
Like a sealer?
I don't know, he was just kind of asking, like, is there something that we can put completely across a marble? And he just said,
Yeah.
I think it would be appropriate.
I don't think you have to do anything to the existing
No,
marble.
I'm just
It was just a
clarifying what
question that
I'm
he asked.
Oh, okay.
clarifying what I was answering to in terms of using clear
Sure.
to cover the holes that are there and the cracks that are there, which I don't think that would be sufficient over time. I think it would turn.
Yeah, I would, if you didn't tint it and you use the wrong type of epoxy, it'll just kind of look
And
like
it's
hot
also-
glue.
Someone already tried to restore it, so that.
You said that was with cement they tried?
Yeah, there's just
Yeah.
like cement plugged holes with like.
Triangles of cement, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that.
and-
Are you familiar, though, with the epoxy that Mr. Smollen's discussing?
Yeah, it's
Would-
basically you're almost
I
trying
think-
to fill it and just fake in the color to try to match what
Mhm.
the veining is doing. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't really look exactly like the stone. You can still
Would it be,
tell the difference.
would it be a reasonable repair? No?
I think that's good for like hairline fractures, small quarter-sized chips, like you said, but
Mhm.
It's fairly
we're talking
damaged.
about holes and concrete holes and cracks that are, not hairline cracks, that are much more significant.
To Mr. Smollen's point, are there portions that could be filled with that epoxy and other portions that could be replaced?
I think
Or-
it's gonna look weird because now you have some areas that had concrete and paint over it versus the original. So it's like, now you're it's like turning into this spotty.
Oh, no, I didn't mean with the cement board. I meant, and the
Yeah.
stucco. I meant with perhaps stone.
Oh, like laying like a stone over the,
Or was that your suggestion, Mr. Smollen, to find a
Yeah.
portion with?
Yeah, in those scenarios, anything going over the existing.
You meant
marble.
replacing a panel
Yeah,
that
if-
had,
If a piece is gone,
Yeah.
beyond repair, you can replace it. I think that's appropriate.
but then you save expense on the other portion by using the epoxy? Does that make sense?
To me, no. That because of the condition that it's already, because it's not just it's isolated to one area. All the way on the right side, there's concrete. About halfway down, there's a huge hole. On the left side, there was a huge hole with concrete. So it's spread throughout the entire face of it. It's not just isolated to a particular area. If that's were the case, and I could just kind of do that in that one particular area, like I said, like we saw and we discussed on the site, it's not just isolated to one particular spot. So that's kind of the thought process.
So why don't we let Mr. Smolik continue with his comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just have maybe one last point. I mean, what you're getting here is you have a historic storefront in the heart of the historic district. It's very significant to the streetscape along Church Street. And you are not getting, and you should not think that you're going to convert this into a storefront in the Willowbrook Mall. It's just not what it is. To whitewash this existing storefront and homogenize the bulkhead is just not the right approach here. So there has to be a little bit more faith and effort applied to working with what you have, because less is more. Does the commission have any questions
Okay,
on the report
this-
that maybe
No,
a couple people
comments.
saw?
So, questions, or we'll go right to comments?
I don't have any more questions.
So why don't we go to comments? John?
My opinion is it's an improvement from the last time we were here. We just got the door centered. We got the glass coming out, so I think there are systems out there that don't have the big Conair depth to them. I think you could do a Pella system, a Pella 400 series probably has a system with a smaller profile. But I would suggest that if indeed you're open to having this custom metal guy recreate this, I would support that. I would suggest that the stone, other than sitting there for many years, is not particularly historic. It comes out of the ground with a lot of other stone, and if you could find the same stone someplace and reclad the bottom and clean that up, that makes sense to me as well. Reusing the existing door somehow. And I think if indeed you go back and redraw this with a different system, I'd like to see a drawing where the demolition lines are not layered on top of it, so we can really see how corners are made and how details come together. It's a little bit, it's a little hard. I get it sort of, but not completely. So the recess of 8 inches, if that solves the 8, I realize there's perhaps something in the code, but I guess if I was a shop owner or opening a restaurant and open to people filing against, even if I'm right, doesn't mean they're not going to have people coming after them for ADA accessibility. I don't know. That's a tough one. You're right, but what's the reality of having to deal with it, an ongoing issue. So I like the fact that it's recessed to some, 8 inches better than 6 inches. And those are my comments.
Okay. Mr. Graham?
If it is possible to replicate the system, the glass and the framing the way Mr. Ryan suggested, obviously that would be my preference. my biggest concern, my primary concern is the door and the depth and maintaining the look of the storefront as it is. To Mr. Smollen's point, if you're moving that door in 22 inches, I see the challenges of that, the risk of damaging it, and I see that as changing the look of the overall building. So I'd be comfortable discussing additional options of changing the glass and the framing system. I'd be comfortable discussing options with the marble bulkhead, but the door is my primary concern and its depth.
So you're saying that to keep the door at the
I think the door should stay, and I'm okay with.
right.
I'm
okay.
generally okay with the other changes, provided we can make some adjustments.
So I have a question. I'm sorry. If we've already ascertained that the storefront to the west is different, and you could see we saw the inside. We saw that. Is it possible to keep the framing, in your mind, the framing around the door, that original metal framing, and do a comparable in width and depth to the side on the west side?
That's kind of what I was proposing as a backup option. I just, quite frankly, didn't have the time to propose.
Well, but you understand, we need to see that.
No, of course.
Okay.
I came here with this, and we're talking about it, so if it's something that is more feasible to you guys, when I get back to the drawing board, if that's, I kind of, wanted to try, and my goal with this was to get a little bit better, after meeting with you guys at site and having today, to get a little bit of a clearer path forward. So that we're not kind of shooting in the dark with like these Conair systems and things like that, that could go one way or could go another way, but if it's something that's a little bit more, or sounds like it's much more feasible, I had already started working on it with the intention of that I needed a backup plan for this just in case, so.
And Chair, I believe we could even expedite that process and try and have a special meeting if necessary.
And what I can do is, I don't want to make a false promise, but I can ask maybe the metal guy to make a sample of it, to see like, okay, this is what it would be framed out of, obviously on a larger scale.
But you understand, we need to see.
Of course,
more,
yes.
okay.
And
Detailed
completely.
plans, we need to understand what system you're proposing to use. The glass was a good point that you brought up, though, about the reflectivity of it, and how that might change, the look of it from the streetscape. And I don't know. Be interesting to find out who else has replaced the glass fronts. Not in that building, not in your building. Probably that.
There's there's all across the street, Franco's and all those stores in the Poke Place. To the left of us, the Salon. Those are all, so like I don't think you're going to, that all these systems use the same glass. You don't look at it and like, oh, that glass that's reflective. It's not, I don't think it's something that's really significant to the human eye.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Even the main entrance has that glass on it, so that's another point if you wanted to.
the main entrance of the building
The main entrance of the building.
has that 25%?
It has a newer glass system installed.
Okay.
The main doorway was 20 over it?
Correct.
The double, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
This one.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that one right there.
Oh, okay.
Can I just go back to a follow-up, because I didn't touch on it? In the alternative scenario where you're going to a custom storefront, you're still looking at an IGU for the glass, or you're talking about plate glass, tempered or
it
whatever?
would be a tempered, thinner glass. It wouldn't be the same. I'm not an expert in the glass. I would have to get.
I
Yeah.
think we're still looking for an insulated glass.
It would still be an insulated, correct, but it's a thinner.
Double pane insulated.
Yeah.
Okay, what you're going to run up against is that's 2 or 3 times heavier than the existing glass, because now there's at least 2 sheets of it, and the framing gets a lot bulkier. You also have what's called the PIB around the IGU, which is that black glue, and that creates kind of another shadow line.
It's not going to be perfect to what is there. We're trying to work our way towards a solution here, so.
Sure. It would be.
I mean, you keep on pointing out how it's going to be different than what's exactly installed, and that's true. It's going to be different, but it's going to be more.
The depth will go backwards, not
Yeah.
forwards.
But it's going to be more energy efficient, and it's going to be just better in general for the space and how people are going to be in there.
It would be, I think, prudent to provide details of what the existing mullions look like today, profile-wise with the bevel, width, and then for this alternative of the custom fabrication, how that integrates itself with an IGO.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a good point. Nick?
I'm open to looking at a system where you're fabricating something that's more like the storefront that's there. I'm not totally convinced yet that you can do it, especially with an IGU, because even if you're getting an inch thickness, sight line, you're going to have 2 to 3 minimum depth to hold the IGU. But I think it's a lot better of a middle ground than going with the Cournier system. I think the Cournier just does not fit on this streetscape. Church Street's a really unique street, not just in Montclair, but in, the state of New Jersey. It's a sidewalk that's 4 times as deep, as your normal suburban sidewalk. It's 1-lane traffic through. In the warmer months, it's one of the only streets I've ever seen in the United States where there's a spot to sit outside and have a glass of wine outside of a liquor store, and people are doing it peacefully, and it's a really special street. I don't think a generic storefront fits there, and I frankly don't care what's next to it from another owner. Two wrongs don't make a right for that street. For the stone itself, I suggest replacing it with just something that looks like it. It's an easily sourceable enough marble. It's a green marble from what looks to be an American quarry. Replace it if it's so damaged. It's better than a stucco or a metal panel. And even if it doesn't match perfectly with the green stone that's maybe 2 doors down, you're never going to have them butt up perfectly against each other. And for the glass thickness itself, I mean, I agree with Mr. Smolin here, less is more. I don't think you need to replace this storefront. I mean, you can look at any restaurant in downtown Manhattan or Brooklyn in buildings that are 50, 100 years old. They're thin plate glass. People are there when it's 12 degrees out, sitting in those areas. You have a good product. I've had your burgers before. I very much like them. I'd be there no matter what. I'm not going to be discouraged to sit next to a somewhat energy inefficient glass, if it's a little drafty by the front of the store.
Just like on the glass subject, one, because there's broken glass, right? So we're going to replace glass regardless. So that's just kind of like, that just is what it is. But the problem is the right side. The left side, the door side, okay. The right side is just in terrible condition, right? So that's really what I'm.
The glass?
The metal framing that you.
Oh,
and
yes.
then on the inside, on
yes.
the right side is just in terrible condition. There's no.
So
If it was,
say
if it was
metal-
the same as the left side, I
Yeah.
would say, hey, I'll figure out a way to do the whole thing. But the right side is completely different than the entrance side. So that's really what I'm trying to. We could figure out the door side. Okay, if that needs to be, then not that it needs to be, but then I can work around that. But the right side is in horrible condition. It's not.
But
as if
correct
it's the
me if
same.
I'm wrong, I thought that's what you were doing. I thought the west facade, which we've looked at, and it's not the same age as the.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, isn't that what you're going to the metal fabricator about?
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, so I think I was kind of touching on the point that you had made, just replacing, I just want to be clear that the right side, I think, regardless, needs to get replaced. It's not that it's.
But you have to come with us
Yes.
with plans.
This is just more in regards to the
Right.
comment that he made. I'm just kind
Okay.
of talking through the comment that he made. That's why I'm not
So it might be worth looking with the metal fabricator. Maybe
Yeah.
you can do that system, but you don't need
Yeah.
IGUs that end up being
Yeah,
an inch and a half
100%,
thick. It could
yeah.
just be a thicker plate glass. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be, the eighth or quarter
Yes.
inch that's there now. We could get something that's thicker.
I just wanna see
Get a little
with
more
you guys,
insulating property
like,
out of it.
When there's a system in the condition that it's in on the on the west side, besides obviously proposing to you guys what I'm going to do, but if it's something that is completely deteriorated, then something has, you know what I mean? It can't just stay like that, regardless of what the use is on it. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, I'll obviously propose what I propose to you guys, but I just want to see, I get it that the left side is a much easier thing to replace. But on the right side, I'm in a position now where it needs to get replaced in some shape or form. I'm willing to pay what I need to pay to have it done, go to the fabricators that go the custom route, whatever I have to do. But it does need to get replaced at the end of the day. It's not just I want to do it because it appeases my eye type of thing, if that makes sense. It's more so out of necessity, not from even outside of the energy efficient glass thing. So it's a little bit more than that as well. As you guys saw, there was two sides to this system, the inside and the outside. And the inside, the outside is in terrible condition. The inside is much worse condition. So,
Okay, thank you. Steve, do you have a comment?
Pretty much the same that what
Steve, your mic.
is to replace the marble. I think that's relatively.
But
easy.
replace the marble that needs to be, I think
Right.
that the bulkhead to the left, if you look at that picture
Left
of
of
the
the
door
door.
is fine. That doesn't need to be replaced. I think the interior panels don't need to replace. I mean, to the right of that, there is.
The interior panels.
Let him make his comment.
No, I just want, not to replace all the panels.
Well, you could.
Oh.
Then they would all match.
Yeah. If he's agreeing with me, I'm suggesting replacing the whole thing, so.
And, yeah, and replacing the storefront's fine, and going with the custom profile.
What are your thoughts on the door, Steve?
On the door, I would, if they, I know his problems with ADA, and what's the other one that comes in with the measuring stick?
The guy that comes in with the measuring stick?
Yeah. So, I mean, that can really bother you for years. So I would move the door forward. Move the door forward, so at least you're in compliance.
well,
And turn the door around.
just to real quick, if I don't touch the left side, I'm not moving the door. I'm just going to leave it as it.
Uh-huh.
Like I wouldn't even.
Good.
Okay.
At that point, I'm not going to move it. So.
Don't move
Yeah.
it.
So, has everyone had a chance to comment then?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what we're back at where we were last week, where this is going to be carried. We did pass 2 weeks ago, that should be a separate resolution that we have to actually vote on before, before you start manufacturing that. So,
Chair, apologies, just clarification, are we referring to the signage now?
yes,
The
yes.
signage
But,
and the-
but if we did approve it last week, they don't have to wait for the resolution to start
No.
activity on that,
No,
Right.
yeah, I get.
right? So they can proceed on the signage and the awning removal, but I guess the other elements we would have to vote on
Yeah.
first.
So then, do we have two resolutions, or do we all bundle it into one? We need two.
Let's do two.
Okay,
Because this has a tendency to drag on.
right, the second part.
All right.
Okay. So you've absorbed all of this.
Yeah. I had a quick question, and then that's it, I promise.
Yes, yes.
I know you had said that, given the circumstances, there may be a way that we can kind of progress this along, maybe in between, or to.
I would be happy to schedule a special meeting
Okay.
to accommate you all.
Okay.
Yes,
Because you're-
because our
yeah.
next meeting is in June, and it's actually.
It's late June, right?
It's
Open to
late
be open
June,
by
it's
then.
June 20th.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
It's June 20th.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I can get working on this immediately,
Yeah.
Yes.
tomorrow.
But you have to be in contact with the planning
Yeah,
office,
of course,
okay?
of course.
There are notice requirements, but barring, making sure that we're within those requirements, we're happy to schedule something.
I appreciate your working with us. to
Yeah.
try to-
Yeah.
try to get
Likewise.
it,
It's a balance
It's
of
getting,
aesthetic and
better.
functionality.
I'm sure it'll get better yet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
Nothing
Okay.
now.
Okay, thanks.
So we're carrying it.
Carrie.
Yes, that's the term, carried to next to, your
Well, we
carrot.
should pick a time, I guess you'll come back when you're ready, let us know when you're ready to meet with us
I'll
again.
contact the office and we'll go from there.
Do we need
So,
to have 10-day
just
notice?
procedure-wise, you still
Yeah.
have to come in front and have it approved. So, yeah, just, so
Right.
we all fully understand that.
We've done these over Zoom before. Can we continue to do that? I'm assuming we could. That was not just a COVID measure, correct? Yeah,
I don't know. I have not done
Okay.
hybrid, I mean,
yeah.
Zoom meetings for HPC, so I cannot
We have,
comment.
this is why our attorney's not here tonight, so these
That's
are all
fine.
questions for
I'll come
her.
into the office on my, I'll get some of my due diligence done. I'll come to you guys and then we'll. formulate
But you
it.
understand the need, we need more detailed.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
What I didn't get was he suggesting that he would leave the left-hand side alone?
We'll take a 5-minute break while you're setting up,
He
okay?
doesn't move the door. Leaves the left side alone.
Well, that's the best of all.
Are we on? Okay, thank you. On to our second application of the night. This is a recommendation that we will be discussing for the zoning board. This property is, it's application 2883 at 75 Lloyd Road. The property sits on the east side of Lloyd Road between Holborn Place and Union Street. Okay, the house was constructed in 1912 and currently does not have a garage or parking lot, and cars are parked in front of the building on a curved paved entrance. We are reviewing this tonight because it's in a potential historic district, designated the estate area potential historic district, which was surveyed, I think it was 3 years ago. And the description in the survey, which I'll read, this single-family dwelling at 75 Lloyd Road was constructed circa 1912 and is located within the proposed boundary of the Estate Area Historic District. The 2.5-story, 5-bay center hall Spanish colonial revival house faces west onto Lloyd Road. The house is covered by a single gable roof with pronounced overhang, exposed rafters, and bracketed gable ends. The roof system is covered with Spanish tile and is broken by a diminutive shed dormer set on the ridge line and by an interior brick chimney. Exterior elevations are clad in stucco. Window openings are randomly arranged and consist of 1/1 double-hung sash. The house rests upon a brick foundation. The paneled main entrance door is framed by multi-light side lights and is set within a columned, flat-roofed entrance shelter which forms the base of a corresponding second-story balcony. So the applicant is applying for variance for proposed attached garage addition on the north side of the house. And we will be discussing removal of existing features, construction of a new secondary entry, a construction of a side garage addition. And the new addition will also include, well, there's different things included in with the new side addition. And an asphalt driveway is also proposed in front of the garage. So, good evening. Could you,
Can you hear me?
yes, thank you. So just identify yourself and your relationship to the project, please. And then we'll
Eric Schultz. I'm an
Okay.
architect. I'm the architect of record in the project.
You're the architect of the project.
I'm the architect of record. My partner, Simon Stigsby, we're designing the project together, but I'm the licensed architect of
Okay.
record.
Thank you. So I'll swear you in now. Do you, as a witness, so will your partner be testifying as well? Okay. So do you swear to tell the truth about this project?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All right. So you've been sworn in.
Right.
So if you could just walk us through what you're proposing to do on this residence, please?
Sure. So we are proposing a two-car attached garage. And the reason it's attached is because we determined a detached garage would be impractical for a couple reasons.
Oh, excuse me.
Just for the record, let's mark the PowerPoint as A1.
I'm sorry, what?
Let's mark the PowerPoint as A1.
Oh, okay. The PowerPoint is A1.
Yeah.
And what about this?
It's all together.
Okay.
Sorry, can you help me forward the slide? So-
Do you want this?
That's good. Okay, so now it's flipping. Okay. So a detached garage would be impractical because of the slope of the property. The change in elevation from the front to the back is slightly over 10 feet. That's one reason. Another reason would be a detached garage would require a length of a driveway that would put the property over the 35% impervious that's allowed. So the proposal is two-car garage, that's the exact width, 23 feet, of the northern extension of the house. That northern extension sits several feet in front of the 50-foot front yard setback. So that's why we're here for the variance, because we wanted to align with the northern extension. So Center Hall, Spanish Colonial Revival. On the right, you have the southern extension. That's the family room with the traditional arched openings. Our addition is proposed to be on the north end, to be flush with the extension. That extension currently houses a service stair and a mudroom. That mudroom, I think originally was outdoor space. Right now it has infilled panel and windows, but I believe originally it's an open porch that provide access to the kitchen. So essentially a service porch. In terms of mass and scale of the garage, we're proposing a minimum roof height just to allow the cars to get in. So you end up with an eave slightly over 10 feet above grade. To the left is the existing extension roof below the main center hall roof gable. To the right is the proposed garage, which you can see is an exact replica of the existing low slope gable roof and with an eave extension to match. As I get into the details later, show that the brackets and the eaves and the rafter tails will all be specified to match existing. So the second part of the project is an entrance canopy, an entrance to the mudroom with a bracketed canopy in the same location of the current mudroom. And for that, we're proposing a hip roof, which I think is a modest complement to the central front entrance, which is flat, and then the service stair, which is a shed roof. So again, the service entrance shed to the right, and then the mudroom arched opening that we removed for the new canopy. This is a blow-up of the detail showing a concept image for that mudroom entry canopy with the hip roof, clay tile to match existing. Support brackets will either be steel or wood, but they will be clad and then painted, so it's an exact color match of the stucco. But it would be a paint finish with those brackets. The new landing, concrete landing with a brick border that would then match the existing of the front entry. And the eave details for the roof, we would match the brackets at the rake and then the rafter tails at the eave. For the mudroom, the new door canopy, we would match the rafter tails that are currently on the service stair shed roof. The image to the left is the current state of the front door. It was painted. The owners would like to strip the paint from that door down to the original wood and stain it like a medium brown color. The door to the right is the service stair entrance. They would leave that alone. The mudroom, the new mudroom entry door would also be wood and then stained a medium brown, and we would try to match the stained color of the refurbished entry door as well. The garage door, because of its exposure, we think it should be a faux wood door. So a typical Clopay Canyon Ridge style. It is a panel door with a transom lights. It have metal straps. But we think it should be faux just for maintenance. But the color, they have a selection of colors, so we try to best match that after the doors were stained. The windows right now are an insert Anderson window. They're black. The trim is green. The new windows that are proposed would also be, the double hungs would be in Anderson. I think we would do an Anderson 400 series that comes in a pre-finished black. That would be the best match for what's to remain. The cladding for the windows and doors has been some type of vinyl that was covered. Each window and door was covered with this vinyl. We would instead do something like a PVC AZEK that would then be painted to match that color and match all the dimensions of the sill and the casings, vertical and horizontal. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Maybe you could go back to your first slide that shows the layout.
The floor plan?
Yes, that's good. All right, thank you very much. So we'll start with questions from the commissioners, okay? Mike?
So are you changing all of the trim everywhere to brown stain, or is it just the areas that you referenced?
Just the front door.
Just the front door? Didn't you also say, what was the garage gonna be that color as well?
The garage door
Door.
will be new, but it will be, the color will be the same as the front door.
As the front door. And there were no other areas where you wanted to strip the paint and stain it? Just the front door?
Just the front door.
Okay. And then, can you show the elevation where you're putting in the, can we go to the side? So, is there any way to make the window, well, I guess you want to match the windows up top. I was just wondering if there's a way to call back to what's there existing, the arched door, but I guess.
No, because they're going to put the.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
Doesn't make sense.
the doors
Yeah.
go here, and so it doesn't make sense to put it.
It's an open arch. It was
Right.
originally an open arch just to provide access to the kitchen.
Okay.
Not an arched window like on the south end.
I was just trying to think if there's a way to call that back to that elevation, but maybe not, to that new addition. All right, and then can I just see the new entryway also?
For the mudroom.
And currently they have that, is that arch original? The, where that window is that you're going to be demolishing?
I think it's here.
It is, right?
Again, yes, original, but it was open, an open service porch.
Right, so is there any way for the design to call out that arch to keep, is there any way to keep that arch for that new door?
You mean here?
Yeah.
Well, if you did, then you wouldn't have a canopy. And I
Right,
think
I'm
the
just thinking it would
canopy's
look more like the
appropriate.
original 1912 design, right? If you kept the arch.
But it would, but that served an outdoor space. So we have a canopy for an indoor space, which is why I think this is more appropriate than like an arch for.
No, I understand that, but we are losing an historic element by making that change. So I'm trying to think if there's, I'm asking if there is a way to maintain that, that element, the arch, because it does change the original look of the house.
I agree, it changes it, but I guess I would say I think this is a more attractive update of that historic look. So I'm not sure why you would want to keep that.
Because it's the 1912 design, that's the reason.
Sure, but in 1912, they didn't have, nobody was building, they weren't building too many garages in 1912. So they were
They
building,
weren't, right, but this house is.
they were building it as a service.
Right, so,
entrance for the, you know,
so we understand that, and we want to, kind of call out the elements that are original to this house. That's why I'm asking, so.
Yeah, again, you could, but then it wouldn't function the way a canopy for a mudroom would function. See what I'm saying? Because you
No,
wouldn't,
I understand that.
you wouldn't put
I
a canopy over the arch.
I understand that, but it's not, fatal to the mudroom to not have a canopy, right?
Well, it's a point.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
My question is, the existing doorway that's there now that has that, what happens to that? You take that door away?
No. That is the door to the service, sorry, that door is the service stair.
So the facade,
So-
it protrudes from the facade,
Yes.
and that remains,
This remains, so you
Okay.
access the service stair
right?
into the basement. whereas
Right.
This is new, it's an access to the mudroom,
Uh,
which into the kitchen and into the breezeway, to the backyard, to the garage.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I'm sorry, I jumped in on your question.
Your prerogative, Chair. No, I'm okay. That was really my only few questions.
John?
This is a variance because of front yard setback? Is it
Where-
also width of the total house as well?
No, we're just under 65.
It's just under 65?
Yep, just barely.
I don't have any questions. I think it's pretty clear what you're presenting, so I don't have any questions.
Steve?
Well, Michael, the arches, you've got 3 arches on this building. One you're going to eliminate because of the garage, and one is the service entrance, has an arch opening. You don't see it here, but you see it on your pictures. There. So I'm, if you can, figure out a way to have an arch entering into the, what do you mean?
Is there a whole addition that's missing from this? Is that?
This is the original.
That's original.
This is original.
So there's nothing over here with the arches.
Yes, there is.
I can't see it in that photograph.
You can't see it in that photograph, but that's where
Yeah,
the
I know,
family room
but
is.
yeah, but that photograph doesn't show it.
I'm missing it. I think it was in the previous.
So while you're looking, Nick, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
I have a question. So you testified that the driveway can't go behind because it's terraced. Basically, it's very steep,
That's the slope.
by the slope.
Yeah, we're-
And then, and the side yard is not wide enough to put a garage opening with the door facing the north as opposed to facing Lloyd Road? I didn't, that's your side yard?
That's you see the contours, it's pretty an aggressive slope along the side.
So the door can't open up to the north?
I don't think that's practical.
Okay. I know, because we tried to discourage, as you must know, front garages that open to the front.
Sure.
Do a retaining wall.
What's that?
Okay,
Right?
Do a retaining wall on the rear side.
yeah.
Got about a 6-foot drop. if you
A
did.
massive retaining
Large,
wall would be
yeah.
required, yes, in a steep slope area.
Any other questions?
No.
Do you guys have questions? No?
Yeah, we were discussing an alternative, but just to keep the arch.
I have some thoughts on that, too.
Okay.
I mean,
so-
there's arches all over.
Questions? Did
No
you ask?
questions.
No questions?
No, we finished with questions. I questioned whether or not a garage opening to the north could, work as opposed to it opening to the front. Because that's what we try to discourage, is garages opening to the front of the, although we don't have an ordinance that states that. But we can, we can recommend that. Anyway, you've received Mr. Smollen's comments?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we'll have him now,
Great.
please.
I love additions to historic buildings. These are always fun. I think the concept for an addition primarily touches on Secretary of the Interior standard number, I think 9 is most applicable here. I'm sure it's something this commission has tussled with many times, differentiated yet compatible. And there's a gradient, I think, between those from additions that are very differentiated and almost conjectural to extremely compatible and almost look like reproductions or reconstructions of a historic building. I think this 75 Lloyd is definitely trending toward compatible. I think it's almost a textbook appropriate addition, except for a few things we'll talk about. It is a necessary addition because you can't accommodate a garage in the existing building. That's obvious, and that's really the first step under concept. I do believe it's subordinate to the existing building, while at the same time you are creating quite a wide building, which is potentially an issue, and that comes up again at point number 3 here, related to differentiation. I think it would help if really in accordance with preservation brief 16 or 14, if some type of hyphen or articulation between existing and old and proposed was introduced. In some cases, proportionally, it could be as subtle as like an inch reveal, or if the commission feels appropriate, the portion between the garage doors and the existing building, which is maybe 12 feet, could be pushed back a distance so that an informed viewer in the future pretty apparently understands there was this old historic building and now that's new. Point number 4 in my comments relates to the reversibility. To the extent possible, that should always be done. It's very debatable what that actually means, reversibility. In this case, it really comes down to whether or not you're destroying significant original fabric. I think you're attaching this to what's essentially a secondary elevation, and there's not much in the way of elements that are critical, really character-defining elements there. So in the future, if someone wanted to pull this thing off because for whatever reason they don't want a garage anymore and they want like a heliport or whatever we're going to have in the future, I think you could conceivably take this off and restore the north facade. The secondary entry, you described as modest in your testimony there. I think it's on the threshold as to whether or not it's truly subordinate to the primary main entry, and then that kind of service entry you have in between, and it potentially begins to really disrupt the rhythm of the house, and it's putting a heavy terracotta roof, really, that draws a lot of attention to that addition. I mean, to the canopy, basically because it's a pretty bright pop of red color on a fairly subdued background. Is that like a Ludovici terracotta tile, or do you have a spec for the roof yet in mind?
Nothing other than matching what's there.
Okay, in profile, color, and texture.
Tell the builder to match it exactly.
So I think it's, at a minimum, it would help with articulating that existing kind of arched entry, which could be as simple as just keeping that portion pushed back a few inches. And I think it's a healthy debate that we should continue to have as to whether or not an overhang is necessary going into a mudroom. The windows that you're proposing, we have additional detail on. They seem to be appropriate. I think you're also really in line with the new guidance from the Secretary of the Interior on the use of substitute materials, which was Preservation Brief 16. You're replacing some secondary elements here and also reconstructing missing features like the sill of the window, and in accordance with that guidance that I think, Kathleen, you probably attended the presentation on that.
On our website, too.
Yeah, so this is a pretty good example of using that guidance, which didn't exist until just a few months ago. And then lastly, I'll just touch on the use of a composite material for the garage doors. I think is also appropriate, given that, again, going back to that new guidance, it's a new addition, and I think an argument could be made that that composite material and that type of exposure probably will last longer than wood that someone doesn't care for too much new growth wood, et cetera. So overall, I think it's a fairly appropriate addition. I don't think you testified on the lighting yet, but it would be worth maybe just clarifying where that's proposed and what that looks like.
We're not proposing any newer lighting other than a surface mount or very shallow, either recessed or shallow surface mount under the ceiling of the canopy.
No sconces adjacent to the garage or anything?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Let's open it up for discussion now. Nick, how about we start with you?
I think it's a very diligent design. I have no issue with it. You know, even if it was set back a couple inches or there was a slight reveal between the addition and the main building, I don't think takes anything away from what you have here. I think that there a lot of care has been taken to replicate the bracket details and the rafter tails. You know, I think it's as nice looking of a garage as you could possibly propose. You know, I'm glad that you're looking at carriage style doors like this with wood and glass. One thing I would be kind of wary of rather, is just matching the wood stain if the swing doors are coming from a different manufacturer than the garage door. I've run into some issues with that on projects in the past where I just couldn't get the wood stain to match, and we ended up abandoning it for just like a white color, but I don't think that works here. I think you either have to go green or stained wood, you know, to match either the trim or just have matching the stained wood door that exists. You know, and as for the canopy over the mudroom door, you know, it is a new element that doesn't really match with another canopy elsewhere, but I'm sympathetic to needing it. You know, there is a sequence of events that's common where you park the car, it's raining, you need to drop groceries in, and it's good to have the overhang right at the door there just for practicality, for packages getting dropped off, things like that. Earlier, when we were talking about, if there's a way to incorporate the arch that's currently there, I could see another option for that canopy where we just kind of do, rather than a hip roof, just an arch.
A barrel vaulted canopy.
Yeah, barrel
yeah.
vaulted piece that's, still has the terracotta, that matches the main roof, but you could potentially just kind of go right around that existing arch that's there, maybe introduce glass in that arched piece at the top again, and then the door below could be the stained door or like an exterior French door. Alternately, this would be kind of a bigger difference, but if we really express the garage being a different piece than the original house, the middle slot could be where you come into the mudroom perhaps, and maybe it's kind of more of like a conservatory kind of structure where it's all glass and framed. If the door is like a French door with side lights, all done in the green color, with a lower roof over it, that really kind of becomes your bridge and separation between the two.
You're talking about at the
Yeah, I
window
don't know if it works
location.
with your floor leveling, if you were to go in at that level, if you can get into the main floor height, below that roof height of the garage. You'd have to look at that, but again, I think, maybe just making an attempt to save the arch that's there with the different shaped canopy over the new mudroom door, I think is strong enough, and makes a good enough case.
I mean, we did look at simply adding a canopy, a barrel vaulted canopy over the existing arch. I just thought that the scale was just too big. It just looked out of scale, right? I mean, this is appropriately scaled to living space, whereas I thought that just seems a little overscaled for a mudroom, appropriately scaled for an outdoor porch, but it seemed like out of scale once you say is the mudroom.
Yeah,
so that's why we
visually, it
went,
could
and I thought a
definitely-
gable end seemed like it was drawing too much attention. So we came up with a hip. To me, hip roofs draw less attention regardless of the color. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am sympathetic to both sides. I mean, on the one hand, there is the arch is original, but it's not being used in its original way anymore. It was filled in at some point, in a non.
To be honest, our approach was really to make this look like the garage is always part of the original house, because that made more sense to me, given that it's at the utility end, as if you would want to design a mudroom to be between the garage and the kitchen. And so designing it as if it was a new Spanish colonial revival house. That, to me, I understand the concept of, but that seemed like the more appropriate approach, whereas if you put the garage on another location, it'd be a different approach.
Yeah, I agree. I think the scale of it does work better. But yeah, overall, I think it's a great looking project. If we were to approve it, really, I think the only condition I would suggest is we just do go with some kind of slight reveal, maybe in the stucco between the new and the existing.
These are recommendations.
And is that, just to be clear, that is here, the 1-inch reveal vertically?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about? I think that's very easy to do. It's
Yeah, and
totally
I think it
open to
works well because
adding
it's in
the-
line with the second story. It's not like we're just putting it in a spot that's.
Makes perfect sense. We have no problem with doing
Yeah.
that.
And I think, looking at the side-facing garage, the more and more I look at the contour lines, your neighbor's going to be looking at a huge retaining wall to lift up your driveway. I think it's less of a concern for the backyard of this house because we could always terrace the retaining wall down with plantings, but the side property line is really, you have to bring that backup area all the way to the property line.
That's right.
So-
Be a massive sort of infrastructure projects at that point.
Yeah.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, it's a good design. And it does look like it could almost be original to it, except it wouldn't be attached.
Well, given the site characteristics, it might.
Right, right.
That,
but I
that's
mean,
our.
The age and stuff like that, you probably would not have an attached garage, but.
That's true.
Yeah, if you just make the little separation between the
Sure.
existing and the new,
I think that makes a lot of
I
sense.
think it'd be fine. And you've got arches everywhere, you don't need another one.
But if you look at the facade, and if that were to continue to be, you don't think it would balance to the right? I think the balance and the rhythm,
No, you've got those windows in the middle that kind of mess everything out
Okay,
with rhythm.
I'm sorry, I jumped in.
That's all right.
John?
I think you did a really good job. You know, it's a cut above a lot of stuff that we see presented to us, so I appreciate that. So hats off to you. I think comments about, you know, I would tend to make this whole garage even a little bit more subordinate to the original. I would push the whole front of that garage back a foot. Even if the gables on the side don't end up being symmetrical, you know, I would tend, and you gotta keep that 23 feet or whatever you need for your car, I would tend just to push everything back. In terms of this arch, this question about the hip entry, I could imagine, first of all, what's there now is not original. It was an open breeze porch, right? You could, you know, and someone came along and closed it up at some point. I could see taking out that infill and putting the mudroom door 3 feet behind the facade. You could keep the arch, you would gain the cover. You lose something in the mudroom, I understand, but you could keep that arch.
That's a good idea.
By doing that and make everything else happen.
Mike?
Well, I'm Team Arch also. But in general, I'm very supportive of the overall design. I think I agree with subordinating it, the garage, to the original house, setting it back a bit. But yeah, I do agree with my colleague's suggestion about finding alternative ways to maintain the rhythm with and maintaining that arch on the north side.
Thank you. And I have to agree as well. I think the the overall design is good. I agree that the garage could be made more subordinate by recessing it back. And I think John's idea of recessing the door and maintaining the arch is a without an overhang to protect you.
So just to clarify, the suggestion is to bring the front wall back.
Yeah.
So you walk in, no, you walk, keep the wall as is.
The wall of the garage?
No.
Or the mudroom?
The arch.
Just the mudroom?
Keep the arch. There used to be an open whatever.
Right, okay. I
Open it
understand.
back 3 feet and put the door to the mudroom 3 feet behind the arch.
Right, you're talking about
Right there, yeah.
Yeah.
this, bringing this section of the
Yeah,
wall
and you'll lose, I understand you lose
back.
space in the mudroom, but on the facade, you keep the arch.
So this becomes a
It's an
recessed, vaulted,
That, yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Vestibule.
Yeah, yeah.
And your point is that the arch is too grand for a mudroom. I think that's what you said before. But honestly, you're looking at it from the street level, and to keep the rhythm of the facade with the arches, I think, is important. And once you're in the mudroom, it's going to it'll bring more light into that space because it's going to be very dark there. And once you're in the mudroom, I mean, do you really care that it's too grand? And is there an entryway from the garage into the mudroom? That was my other point.
yes, that door.
Oh, okay, so you have enough room. So those, I think we're, you hear that we're supportive of the project. It's a shame that the doors have to face front, but I think the suggestions about recessing the garage, making it more, the addition more subordinate is valid. And the idea of maintaining the arch as part of the design.
Okay.
Whether you put a barrel vault on it, I understand your reserve about that, but the idea of making it recessed could work. Because you also have that little recessed entryway to the right of that, too. I mean, this one.
The service entrance.
It's an exterior recess, but it's still, it plays off of each other, I think in a good way. So in terms of putting a driveway, we're not adding much impervious, the driveway is fine, extra impervious surface.
I mean, this is, the only reason they're here is because he needs a variance. He's not here for his, and we're making the recommendation to the planning board, right?
The zoning board.
Zoning board, right. I don't see how he could do any, I'm surprised this place, never had a garage, this house? What's
Maybe
gar-
in the back, you know what, it could have come up from
Could
the,
it come up the back? I
from the
don't know.
back.
Yeah, maybe.
Would have been quite a retaining wall to
That
get
Right.
means- That
Get
means
back
they've been
there.
parking in front of their house forever, which is something that's
Exactly.
frowned upon in
As
this
well.
town as well, so.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Do you have any questions for us, or?
No, I think that's all right.
So Farwa will write up the recommendations, and then, when do you go before the the zoning board?
June 19th.
Oh, okay.
Do we need to vote on anything? Or-
No, this
we
is
don't.
just recommendations.
Okay.
All right, thank you very
All right,
much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
good job.
Thank you.
Do you want to take these back so you can present them to the, you can use them for the zoning board?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just go in the garbage if they, as much as they're, like that. I marked this up, so that's no good.
Thank you, I think it looks great. Okay, so. I gotta find one of my 5 agendas. Okay, thank you very much, and now we are into our discussion. The first is the reexamination of the historic preservation element of 2016. And Farwa had sent the HP element, the goals and objectives. And could you remind me who's on this committee? Do you have that? We created a subcommittee, but,
I thought it was you, Jerry, and I, if I'm not mistaken.
okay. I think you're
Jerry
right.
and me. Yeah, you, Jerry, and me. Yeah.
So,
These are the same documents I saw 5 months ago, right?
from Tommy. Tommy sent these.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
No, he sent this was the goals and objectives from the
Yeah.
2016. So I think what we need to do is we need to meet on this, the committee, but I would suggest that if any other commissioners have a,
I didn't really understand these, completely, these documents. The one you're holding, are these recommendations?
that were in the plan, that were in the historic HP element from 2016,
Of the master plan.
So
of the
this-
master plan.
So this is what exists in the 2016?
Right.
So we're looking to modify that document?
Well, we're looking to revise it, to bring it
Okay,
up to
that's
date.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a,
Wasn't clear to me.
I have a comment. So, in the master plan, it's Kathleen, Mike, and Gerald. And regarding this document, Janice asked me to ask the commission that the plan needs to be re-examined by the commission and have your comments, and they need to be presented to the planning board. Like, the comments need to go to the planning board first, and then I'm not sure what happens after that.
Right.
We'll discuss them, vote on them, and, yeah. Yeah.
Right, so, but what I asked is if anybody else has, outside of our little committee, has any comments on what we have here, to send it, maybe you could send it to me within a couple of weeks?
Okay.
And then we can,
Okay.
update it.
Okay.
Because, I mean, there are
Then the
some things that
subcommittee
we've
can-
actually
Sure.
done, you know, to advance the preservation of Montclair's distinct, well, I won't read it, but, you know, we do like the workshop and the preservation awards, and,
I guess what I was trying to get to is, do we have the 2016 version of what you're holding there?
that's what this is.
That's what this is.
That's it. Oh, it is. Well, then why did I see some references to, here, maybe I was reading.
It says 223 at the top. This is 2016. This is what we're basing it on.
I see some other dates here, so. I see 2019, I see some other date, this is not.
Oh,
How
really?
can it be if it has other dates in it? Any date after 2016 would make it.
Well,
So that's what was confusing to me, whether this was the 2016.
oh, you know
How
what?
could it be?
Somebody did, I think, because Tom we had started on this. So what he did is the comments, what action's been taken. So he added, the surveys that we had applied for with grants, which is Wheeler Street, 2019, Oak Croft, Estate Area 2020, Commuter Area 2022.
I got it.
So
I just, whoever's working on it, that you have what was that.
Right.
Clear what it was, and I realize some things have been added, but.
Right.
What are you working with, so. Okay,
But if
that's
you
it.
see anything, I
Yeah,
would
yeah, I'll
say
look
for
at it, yeah.
in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then Farwa had also sent the master plan reexamination report for the planning department, which is.
It's very interesting.
It's,
It's getting older here in Montclair.
but that's a good thing. We're like the happening people. All right, are there any questions about this then? Do we have our work cut out? Okay. So the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan, as we all know, the existing plan that we already commented on went back to the planning board. The plan itself hasn't changed. I don't know what the outcome was from what the planning board said. I don't know if that's been published yet.
Well, the planning board, we revised the letter that we sent to the council the first time that we reviewed the Lackawanna Plaza plan. The changes were minimal. They essentially came to the same conclusions because the plan had not been
Right.
changed. We had our 2 new planning board members submit some comments. There were some minor modifications, but nothing that changed the substance of what we wrote initially. So I actually missed that vote, but it was unanimous to send that report to the council.
So my suggestion, or what I would say, is that our recommendations or our comments on this Lackawanna plan, which the plan hasn't changed, so it would still be the same comments. We should send what we originally sent, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago, from the HPC to the council. Again, just a reiteration. And whether we have to vote on that to send it.
Nick, did you have an opportunity to review that?
Oh, that's,
Yeah, it was a while ago, though. Yeah.
And you were in favor of the letter that we sent?
Yeah.
Okay.
so, what's that?
Yeah, there may be some minor modifications, similar to the date, and we might have to say this is the,
Well, there have to be a cover paragraph.
right, and we'd have to mention that we are reviewing the subsequent approval, not the initial approval. I'm sorry,
No, there hasn't been an approval
not the
yet.
approval, that's not what I meant. Because it was voted on by the council prior to Councilman who left, who resigned from the council. So bottom line, we just have to reference that this is the second time that we're looking
But we
at this.
haven't changed our opinion, that's the
Right.
point.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But we just have to have some minor modifications to our letter.
So do you want to vote on that, or are we all in agreement that we,
I think we should vote.
Okay.
Personally.
so if somebody make a motion, will somebody make a motion, please?
I move to send the letter again to the city council.
Okay.
With whatever minor modifications to bring it up to date.
Great. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Farwa, we'll work on that. That should be in the office, the letter. I have it somewhere too, okay? So let's make a point that I'll work on that. The Board of Education, Woodman Field. At our last meeting, which was only 2 weeks ago, I said, that I offered to write a letter to the Board of Ed with Mike's help, and I just haven't had a chance to do it yet. So basically, what it will be is that, you know, a historic structure was destroyed, demolished, and actually, I have their original plans, which say on the plans that it should not be demolished. So there was something in communication, I don't know what. I also have in my possession some of the original wood cladding that was on the building, including a corbel. So I could mention, you know, hopefully they'll create it, but who knows? But I think that we should just tell them that as an historic, structure, it should have come to us for demolition report.
Yeah, I think that's more that it's happened, you know.
Right.
We should observe and point it out to them.
Right.
But more importantly, that there's some sort of open communication between, you know, the HPC and the Board of Education.
And we've tried that.
Related
Right.
to,
Right.
you know, structures in this town.
Yes,
Simple as
yes,
that,
yeah,
you know.
and it's been very difficult, as
Yeah.
you know, everybody
Yeah.
knows.
We can try.
Okay. And then the next thing is violations. As I drive around and walk around, there are so many violations in the historic districts that it's just mind-boggling. And, you know, I'll send notes to Farwa, and then she sends it to the Violations Bureau. But originally, when Tom Conley first came on board as a consultant, he actually walked around the historic districts. Then we had COVID, so, you know, all that stopped. So I was talking to Stephen a little bit before, whether or not he would have the time or the opportunity. We have to have a plan. Somebody either has to go out, or we ask our consultant to do that. So I don't know if you want to have more discussion tonight about it, or think about it for June and keep sending our violations like piecemeal to the planning department.
I think we probably would have to discuss budget also if we were.
And
gonna-
budget,
So.
right.
That might be necessary to
That's a
carry
good
until
point.
June. But in general, I would prefer to have Mr. Smolin handle
Yes.
that.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, we're
Do
the
we
ones
have
that get.
Do we have a summary of all the violations?
No, we don't even have that. It's just that you walk around and you
I
see.
know, but I mean, you submitted violations.
Previous violations are in the records.
Okay, so we can start with that.
To see whether they've been fixed.
Can you access
That's
that
part of
online?
it.
Well, if they've been fixed, they're not violations anymore.
On the computer.
They're on the computer in the office, but not really available to the public? Okay.
But we need the violations that are in violation now. We
Right,
don't need
right.
the ones that are fixed. For the most part, they do get fixed.
There are several violations which are like currently we're dealing with right now as well.
They're what? I'm sorry.
There are several violations like Cornbread, South Fullerton or North Fullerton, the 11th Fullerton Avenue.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we have some
South,
which we're
yeah.
dealing with right now.
Okay. Which brings me to the big one, which is 11 South Fullerton.
So I got a call from their assistant, and they wanted
The
to
assistant of whom?
South Fullerton, like the building, the
Property owner?
landlord has an assistant, so she called, and she wanted to understand if there's a possibility to submit an application so that that facade could be approved, because they're saying it's very costly to fix it. They fixed the brick, but they're unable to bring the windows down all the way. So if there is another option, they can look into.
So they want to submit a new application for what they've already put up, which is in violation. Let me get that straight. That's
mean-
what they're doing.
They didn't say that we want to do it. They asked if that's an option.
I think, there's a violation, and aren't we asking them to come back with a solution
Right.
or a change? So they got to do that first. Present some alternatives other than it's just too expensive. They built it, you know, I don't know.
So they need to hire an architect for, like, what do I tell them? What can they do?
Come back, I don't, I don't think we care who
To the design
does
review
it,
committee?
But, what's that?
To the design review committee?
Well, they have to come up with a proposal.
Yeah.
But
They have
would
to-
that be a new application? Would that be a certificate of appropriateness?
Yeah, how do people deal with violations?
Like if they can't fix it and they want to look into cost-friendly options.
That sounds like a new application to me.
That's,
right?
yeah, me
Because,
too.
yeah, that doesn't sound like a design review committee situation, because as Mr. Ryan has already pointed out, they're in violation. We need to review this as a committee.
Because
as a
there's a
commission.
new sign application that came in.
For
and-
11 South Fullerton.
Yes, because there's a new Indian
no.
restaurant that is opening there. They haven't submitted the final plans for the signage, but we were talking about it, that there's a possibility, based on whatever they propose, that this issue will come up again.
Well, it has to come up again, they're in violation.
Yeah, so I want to know how can we go about this so that
Yeah, so you can give them some, some direction. Well, I don't, have them make a new application, you know?
Have they been fined for their violation?
no.
Well, what's the process? If somebody, if there's
We
a
would need to,
violation?
we would need to send it to code enforcement, but they have been communicating
With whom?
with the planning department that what they can do. This was raised again because of the new signage.
They've got to propose it, they've got to,
They-
they've got to
Can-
submit a new application.
Okay.
It's just, yeah.
I think we need, maybe at the next meeting, to look at what is the process for violations
Agreed.
and enforcement. Because this has been going on for a year.
Yeah.
And I
mean,
gotta, what?
Sorry, continue.
Maybe not a year, is that what you're gonna say? But it's been a long time, and
I think it has
I
to
think
be.
there's like, there were points along the way.
Right.
After 2 months, after 3 months, after 6 months, whatever, I think we should understand it, and there's, and get to what the enforcement is.
I think the final step usually is that it goes to the building department and code enforcement, and then they send officers, and then they are fined. That's the final.
That's fine, well, but why has that not happened after a year? So I'm just want to understand the
I think it would just be
timeline, what a
nice.
timeline should be.
Yeah.
And who is supposed to be forwarding it to the
Yeah.
building department and code enforcement. It's not easy thing to do from the, from
I mean,
your-
it would be me.
Yeah.
I would be forwarding it. But that is my question. If they're communicating with me and they're asking questions, should I still send it to code enforcement? Or just ask them to make a new
What keeps them
application?
from stop talking? They could talk for the next 3 years.
Right.
Maybe I can give I don't know if I can give them a deadline for a new application, but I'll confirm with our department and ask what can be done.
Yeah, but I'd still like to review what the process
What the
is. So
pro-
so
Right.
that relates to going around looking at
Right.
things as well and starting a process of,
Because we also have a major violation at 30 North Mountain, which is the Molly Schultz house and the stairs that they put in in the front. That's a violation too, and he hasn't, and he's got outstanding exterior things that he wants to do. So those are the two.
I know another one, but okay.
You even know another one?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
wait. But it's important, we need to
Yeah.
know.
And it can't sit. We've got to get them
Yeah,
moving
we
along.
gotta-
They've got to get an application, or they got to get fined, right? So they've got to get them move on.
so can we
Yeah.
put that on the agenda, the violation procedure review
Yes, I
for
would-
next
yes.
meeting?
I
Yes.
think this is a good idea. I'll tell them to submit a new application for Fullerton.
It's fine.
Okay. So that brings us to the discussion, but before we leave, Farwa has an announcement she wants to make.
Can you make it? Well, this is my last HPC meeting
Oh,
tonight.
Oh, no.
But it has been a pleasure working here. I really enjoyed it. I'm leaving because of personal reasons. I'm not going anywhere else. But
Yeah.
it was great, and thank you so much for having me. I learned a lot, definitely.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you, thank you.
for all
Yeah,
the
it
work
was very
you do.
short-lived.
And just
That's
for,
it. Got a little taste of it.
my
Yeah.
colleagues to know, I've been in communication with Janice, who's the planner, And as she is the assistant secretary, she'll be taking over Farwa's duties, so.
So you won't be
She's probably
abandoned.
very happy about that.
Ecstatic.
So,
thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Farwa. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Any other discussion points, or I think, no? All right, our next meeting is in 6 weeks, so it's June 20th. It's coming up. All right, so motion to,
I move to adjourn.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.